In this episode of Discovery Road, James heads south and takes a seat in a 1963 Ford Fairlane with Jennifer behind the wheel. They stumble upon a compelling story on canvas and pedestal.
And they see this landscape from an artist's eyes. It gives them a new appreciation for the land and the landscape, the ruggedness of the area.
Learn about a fellow named Jacob Hamblin.
Jacob Hamblin was one of those people that everybody should know about, and yet few people really do, even within this area and within the LDS Church.
Delivers some newspapers.
It is very valuable to the community in a whole to keep them informed and to be a documentation of history here.
And taste a slice of pie like none other.
Ice cream pie, rum sauce.
You're killing me, Ed.
There it is. There, how's that?
There it is.
All right.
Southern Utah's Kane County. Deserts, mountains, rivers, and valleys, the splendor of Utah's color country. We've locked our GPS behind the mythological glide of the Thunderbird. Near Mount Carmel Junction, a world of discovery opens all around us like a century-old Sunset magazine cover. Light brown chocolate blocks of mountain, marshmallow sacks of clouds, and green leaves on swaying tree branches. The message is clear. Visitors welcome. Welcome to Maynard Dixon country.
One of the things that people tend to do when they drive through an area, they look at the landscape and they see the things on a surface, but they don't get an in-depth feeling for it. But when they see what an artist sees, and they see this landscape from an artist's eyes, it gives them a new appreciation for the land and the landscape and the people and the ruggedness of the area and the ruggedness of the people who came here and settled these areas. This cottonwood tree, if it could talk, it could tell us a lot of stories. It's been hit by lightning a few times. This is the property. As you can see, it's a little oasis here.
Maynard Dixon's paintings, watercolors, and drawings captured the heart and soul of the Old West.
This is the house, and it's the trims and everything are the kind of the colors of Maynard Dixon's palette, with the turquoises and the reds and so forth that you so often see in his pieces.
Inside the Dixon cabin, coziness and comfort, a real sense of his life, and real samples of his work, like this 1927 Navajo land.
You can see the design of those clouds. That's an absolute wonderful design, but that's where your eye goes, is up to that magnificent cloud.
It certainly does, yes.
And then these wonderful mesas, and then you can feel that heat of the desert coming up behind those figures. And he calls it Navajo land, with the idea that these people are part of the land. They know the land well. They travel it every day. And it's just a great example of his genius. He loved to paint the cottonwoods against the blue sky. That's one of these things he loved about this area, is that these cottonwoods turn this beautiful flame gold. The genius of that painting is the shadows that lead, and the little road, the ruts in the little road that lead you into the painting.
Though his focus was the American Southwest and Native people, Dixon's reach with the paintbrush was broad and compelling. The Forgotten Man, painted during the Great Depression, still resonates as a powerful view of society and the discouraged among us. His wife at the time, Dorothea Lang, produced a powerful photo titled Migrant Mother. Together, distilled images of a disheartened America. Following his death in 1946, Maynard Dixon's ashes were buried just above his cabin. A reprise of his poem, At Last, a perfect send-off.
At last I shall give myself to the desert again, that I in its golden dust may be blown from a barren peak and broadcast over the sunlands. If you should desire some news of me, go ask the little horned toad whose home is the dust, or seek it among the fragrant sage, or question the mountain juniper, and by their silence they will truly inform you.
No surprise that rolling on down Highway 89, eventually we're going to run into some wild horses and burros.
The mares and jennies are on this side of the corrals, and then we've got the geldings and the jacks on the other side. The tags around the necks, they're basically go with the brand that's on their neck. That brand tells us their age. It also tells us kind of the area that they came from.
An adoption program like none other.
What we do have these wild horse and burro adoptions for is to first try to place these wild horse and burros in good homes, and then also just to give the public the opportunity to learn about the program. They have the opportunity to come and actually adopt one of America's living legends, which is the Mustangs or the wild horses.
When you're dismissed, you will walk your horses for half an hour, then water and picket them.
In 1971, the Wild Horse and Burro Act was passed, and in that it talks about that they are American icons, an integral part of the American landscapes.
The burros, or small donkeys, are descendants from a long line of work animals. They worked in mines, on ranches, or with explorers centuries ago.
A lot of times it's just pets. People pack them. They're good for, like, if you like to backpack or you like to go up trails and carry equipment. They can hold a little bit more than a person can, and they're really sure-footed. They're smart. They don't eat as much as a horse.
30 horses and 12 burros in this little adoption roundup. Many thousands more, of course, still out there, roaming the American West. Jennifer headed to the car wash, and I hitched a ride with Kanab mare Nina Leigh Cook. A ride to the past, to America's first all-female town council. Chances are horses and donkeys were often on their agenda.
What about these animals that roam loose all over town?
We have to do something. It's just so unsanitary.
It is, and the flies are horrible.
Yes.
The flies are.
So, and what about the horses tied at the fence?
Oh, yeah, even the ones that are, you know what they do? They leave their dropping? Yeah, sure. Yes.
Oh,
they leave their impressions behind.
It became important to me as mayor when I saw the 100-year anniversary come up to give honor to these ladies, what happened 100 years ago. And as we started that process, we realized there was more of a story to be told. And the ladies that I selected to help me do this, they wanted to make sure it was authentic, and they researched the characters and the costuming, and that certainly has added to it.
They were tough ladies. Unregistered dogs were put down, anyone wasting water was fined, and license fees for traveling merchants and peddlers were increased.
Here they were women, 100 years ago, all Mormon, and there sometimes is a perception that the ladies 100 years ago, and maybe even today, are maybe don't have much authority, well, they dispel that rumor quite well.
Just about any time of year you can find a busload of international visitors setting foot in Kanab. In a way, they've all been here before. They've seen that stunning backdrop in those Western movies.
That's the word. Officers and sergeants forward. Officers and sergeants forward.
The visitors get to see where half a century or more of Western movies and television shows were made. They're treated to a Western-style dinner, and they even get to be in a movie. Perry Lodge in Kanab is where the history lesson really becomes an adventure. Hollywood stars stayed right here in these very rooms while the movies were being made. Frank Sinatra, Clint Eastwood, Raquel Welch, Lana Turner. What a guest list. Like playing an old Western roulette wheel at check-in, tourists from around the world hope to land a room where one of their favorite stars might have stayed. I did just fine.
Who can take a sunrise?
Room 133, Mr. Show Business, Sammy Davis Jr. But I was searching for another person, Walter LeGrand Hamblin, better known as Huck Hamblin.
And roll, please.
For more than 40 years, he was the taxi driver for the movie stars.
Action.
So will it be.
I reckon so.
From the Perry Lodge to the movie set or wherever they needed to go.
We came as soon as we could.
Okay, we're here to stay.
That's a fine idea.
Huck's brother Fay Hamblin is credited with bringing Hollywood stars to Kane County, but it was Huck who drove them around. Over 300 of Hollywood's brightest stars. Huck Hamblin died in 1989. But we found his business card. An old Western scene on one side, and a few words of his legacy spelled out on the other. So who's getting married this summer? The best restaurants in town. Road closures during construction. Oh yes, local politics. Nothing quite like a small town newspaper.
Smaller town newspapers seem to be doing better than the larger ones because while there's the online factor, which our paper's online, it seems like people really want to know their personal small town news. They want to hear about baptisms, they want to hear about weddings, and they want to put it in scrapbooks. And so while we're online and we do the international thing for travel and tourism and stuff, we're really important to the community because it's their voice.
Dixie and Dennis Brunner came to Kanab from Wisconsin to run the newspaper. That was more than 2 decades ago.
It was kind of scary at first, picking up roots from Wisconsin and heading out here, but no, it worked out good. The paper was a lot to learn, you know, but we got it down now.
The Southern Utah News does give locals a voice and outsiders a sample of life in Kane County.
My wife wrote for a small weekly paper back in Wisconsin, our hometown, Stoughton, and so she had that part down.
We're really proud of what we've done, and our sons have helped us. We've built up something that is a public forum. People are grateful for it, I think, for the most part, although they tell me otherwise a lot of times too. And I think that it is very valuable to the community in a whole to keep them informed and to be a documentation of history here.
A wall of awards are strong endorsements of how well the Brunners do their jobs. But the weekly delivery is a pretty nifty way to keep that old connection to people and the past in the modern world.
Good job.
Even during a busy tourist season, we couldn't help but notice we had arrived during Jacob Hamblin days. Hamlin was a Western pioneer, Mormon missionary, who brokered peace between white settlers and Native Americans, earning him the nickname the Buckskin Apostle. And as an explorer, well, he was among the very best.
In the days that Jacob was traveling around, we knew less about this area than we know about the surface of Mars today. It's amazing because even when you have a map, it's so easy to get lost or to think that you can get across the way and find out that there's a half a mile of vertical drop between you and the point that you're trying to reach, and that you have to go many, many miles to get around it. It's unbelievable that he was able to track around and get to where he needed to go, and he obviously couldn't have done it without the help of the Indians.
He took the attitude that they were as much God's children as he was, or the local settlers. So he sat with them, he learned of their problems, he tried to help them by going to the white leaders and saying, you've given them a patch of ground to till, but you haven't allowed them any irrigation water. You've got to treat them as equally as you do all of the other farmers in the area. So he got things done for them that probably wouldn't have happened if he had not interceded.
Of course, you can find out more about Jacob Hamblin on the internet and at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum in Oklahoma City. And you can find his influence in Kanab in southern Utah and northern Arizona. Despite an impressive legacy out west, though, Jacob Hamblin remains a secondary figure in most history books.
Hamlin never named anything. He never tried to get anything printed back in Washington. He was just a very humble guy that went out and got the job done, and he didn't seek any publicity. And maybe that's one reason why he was ignored.
Our Kane County road trip had one more unchecked box, the Thunderbird Restaurant. So we pulled up a chair for some coffee, roadside history, and homemade pie.
The restaurant, the Thunderbird Restaurant, this is what that looked like. This was the front of it, and it was Thunderbird Cafe. And you know, we took our water out of the mountains, out of a spring. So my granddad went up, dynamited it, tried to get more water, and it shut the whole spring off. So they had to scramble to find more water. And then they finally got a well permit, drilled a well, and they kept going. But that was the original one there.
When Jack Morrison died, his wife Fern did everything she could think of to stay in business. She even called up famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright for some remodeling advice. He never made it, but he did send one of his students out.
The tourists is our big deal. And to meet, my grandmother always said, they come here to meet you. You don't need to go anywhere. They'll come here and meet you, and you can learn about them. From every country, you meet people every day from different countries, and they're so excited to be here.
Before that slice of pie, one more chapter in the Thunderbird Restaurant story.
And this is a picture of Fern. Fern moved here in 1930, homesteaded the land, had 4 children. This is my mother, and my Aunt Joyce, and my Uncle Jackie, and my Aunt Betty. Jackie and Joyce died in the river in a flood 6 months after this picture was taken. And it really was hardships out here. They lived in a tent almost up to this point. They never had a home. They actually baked pies to get the service station going out of a tent. And finally, my granddad just pulled it all off and built the restaurant for her, and things went great for her after that. But she lost both her children 6 months before this. So you can tell the hardships they had back then.
All right, Ed, I came here for a lot of reasons, but one is to sample the pie. I'm ready.
You ready, huh?
Yeah.
You sure you can handle this?
I hope so.
This is our signature pie. This is what the whole place is built on. Home of the homemade pie. And I'm gonna let you try this. And here you go.
All right. And what's this one called? This is the signature, so it better be
hot apple pie a la mode with buttered rum sauce.
Okay, here we go.
Now you got to mix the ice cream in with it. It's got to be a 3-layer thing. Ice cream, pie, rum sauce.
You're killing me, Ed.
There it is. There, how's that?
There it is.
All right.
Hey, troop, 4's right. Yo!
Say action, wagon masters. You use the reins. Yeah!